Up here, so we will get started maybe just a few minutes early and give the candidates a little bit more time. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the final in our series of 5 candidate meet and greet and forums that we have held prior to the October 12th primary. I'm Nancy Bergeron with the Ruston Leader and the moderator for this event tonight. Tonight's event features our candidates for Parish Assessor and for Clerk of Court. As many of you have heard me say in others of these that you have attended over the past couple of weeks, we at the Leader are excited to hold these events because we do indeed believe that your interaction with the candidates on a one-on-one basis and listening to them is one of the best ways for you, the voters, to make your decisions on Election Day. We also want to thank our sponsor, Origin Bank, and the Lincoln Parish Library that provided this place for us to meet, as well as Up Down Downtown, who provided the cookies/supper that was out there in the foyer. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. As I'm sure you all know, if you need the restrooms, they're here in the foyer, right out and in the front lobby here. And if for any reason we should need to evacuate the building, the emergency exit doors are here, and the main exit doors are over there. Out in the foyer. Okay, so here's the format for tonight's event, and it's just like the others that you've seen, except we have different folks up here. The questions are coming from you, the audience. Have a whole stack of them here, and they are in random order, ladies and gentlemen. So they're just like shuffling the cards up here. Candidates, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. All of you will answer the same question to the point that it's germane to your office. In other words, Mr. McBride, Mr. Pullen will answer the ones that are germane to the assessor's office, Ms. Cook and Mr. Hughes to the clerk's office. And there are a few that are applicable to both offices, so everybody will get those. We will rotate so that nobody is always first and nobody is always last. Our timekeeper, Catherine, down here on the front row, will hold up a green card. Catherine? Green card? Green paddle? At the 45-second mark. That's your halfway point. And then a red paddle. Red paddle. Catherine's making her debut at this tonight. At the 1 minute 30 mark, and you'll see, candidates, you will see this counted down on the big screen there in front of Cody. If you are in mid-sentence at the when time is called, you will be allowed to finish that sentence only, and in just 1 or 2 words. No paragraphs, no run-ons, no seeing how long we can talk without taking a breath. And audience, we ask that you would refrain from any applause or remarks during the time that the candidates are speaking, because that does take away from their time. At the end of the evening, we will certainly thank and applaud each one of them for offering themselves as public servants for Lincoln Parish. All right, let's begin to get started here. Again, our candidates tonight are for Clerk of Court are Linda Cook, and for Clerk of Court, Troy Hughes, for Assessor, Billy McBride, and for Assessor, Walter Pullen. Candidates, here is the first question. And although I think it was probably initiated to assessor candidates, we are going to make it for all 4 of you. So, that being said, Ms. Cook, we will start with you on this one, please. And it's a 2-part question. Here's the question. How long have you lived in Lincoln Parish? And what have you done for the community prior to 2018? It should be on, and they should be on, and you have to pretty much eat it too.
Okay. I have been in Lincoln Parish since 1971, and what I have done for Lincoln Parish since 2018 is that I have served as Lincoln Parish Clerk of Court And I have to say that our office is running very smoothly to extreme efficiency. So I thank you.
And Mr. Hughes, how long have you lived in Lincoln Parish, and what have you done for the community prior to 2018?
I've lived in Lincoln Parish all my life. And prior to 2018, I've been working at the Grambling Police Department for approximately 13 years. I've worked in narcotics for a few years with LPNet. I'm currently a night shift supervisor and training coordinator for the Grambling Police Department.
All right, and Mr. Pullen, you have I think a mic down here on your end. Same question.
Good evening, my name is Walter Pullen. First of all, this is a great turnout tonight. I was scared to death there wouldn't be anybody here but me and Billy and Linda and Troy. So thank you very much for coming. It's really important that you become involved in what our elections are and that you take an active role in our community and try to elect the best people you can elect for each position. I've lived here in Lincoln Parish since 1984. I came over here as a 17-year-old college student, thanks to the generosity of A.L. Williams and the Louisiana Tech football team that gave me an opportunity to wash socks and jocks and work for the football team. I managed to put myself through college, working there on a scholarship and 2 and 3 jobs in other places. I had a 24-year career in the pharmaceutical industry. My wife Heather and I, she is one of them West Monroe people. When we got married, I said, honey, I hope you like Ruston because that's where you're fixing to be living. We've been here and we've been together since 1999. We've raised all 3 of our kids here. Our 2 oldest kids are graduates of Ruston High School. Our youngest is currently enrolled in the special ed program at Ruston High School. We've been actively involved in our church and our community. I've coached many of your sons and daughters on the softball field or the baseball field. We poured out our hearts here in our community because this is our home. This is where we want to be. Thank you.
And Mr. McBride.
Well, I came here in 2009 after I lost my job at Weyerhaeuser for 23 years working there due to the economic crisis. I was fortunate enough to get a job at the assessor's office. I started at the bottom, I worked my way up, but most importantly, I learned the names and the faces of each and every homeowner and business owner in Lincoln Parish. What was the second part of the question?
What have you done for your community prior to 2018?
Okay. I've been involved in Rotary. That's pretty much the only club I belong to is Rotary. But I'm always active in the church and helping anywhere I can. So I love Lincoln Parish. We've only been here 10 years. I guess this is the least out of every one up here. But that's my home now. It's mine and Janet's home, and we're going to stay here because we love our parish, and I'm going to do everything I can to help it grow. Thank you.
Next question, gentlemen who are running for assessor. This one is for you. And we will start this time with Mr. McBride. Here's the question. How does the assessor's office determine how much tax I pay each year?
Well, let me clarify that. The assessor's office doesn't determine the taxes. We don't make the taxes. The assessor's office does not collect the taxes. The taxes are assessed by each individual body, the police jury, the sheriff's office, school board. Every one of those has a budget, and they have to determine a millage to pay their budget. And out of that millage, we take the fair market value of a house or a business, and then we calculate that times the assessed value, and then that times its tax rate, and that's how your taxes are calculated. But we're only appraisers. We appraise property. We do not set taxes.
And Mr. Pullen.
Well, as Mr. McBride said, the assessor's office uses generally, in most cases, not all, but a cost comparison basis to come up with a value for your home. but it's not the assessor's office that charges you your taxes. Your taxes are determined by each of the governmental entities in our parish, and it's done based on what they consider their needs to be to meet their operational expenses. You know, one of the things with the assessor's office that we want to do is we want to try to make sure the assessments are as fair as possible across the board, and that everybody is treated equally when they come to the assessor's office. You know, I've been on the police jury now for the last 8 years, and last year we had the owners, Rich Smith Properties that owns Park Ridge Estates over on West Alabama. Mr. McBride, as the chief deputy assessor, assessed the property at $6,024,000 some change. Well, they appealed that assessment, and they had the assessment reduced to $2,200,000. So that's a $3.7 million mistake. We need to look for and make sure that we're treating people fairly, and that we do everything we can to give them an accurate view of what their values of their properties are.
All right, next question is for our clerk of court candidates, and we will begin this time with Mr. Hughes. If you are elected clerk of court, what is the biggest issue that you want to address in the upcoming 4-year term?
The biggest issue I want to address is the online accessibility. I know it's coming, Ms. Cook also explained it's coming, but at this current time,
Get it closer to you.
at this current time, the online capabilities of Lincoln Parish Clerk of Court's office are lacking a little bit. Union Parish has been online with the portal for a while. Other parishes surrounding us have been online with the portal for a while. So my biggest issue is bringing technology up to today's standards.
And Ms. Cook, Ms. Cook.
Okay, first let me explain what the portal is. That's called Clerk. Several years ago, that was to be established by the clerks of court to help those clerks who were suffering financially and not able to put their information online. Our information in Lincoln Parish was already online, and we update daily and yearly. In 2020, they mandated that all clerks of court over the state of Louisiana should become members of Clerk. The only problem that I had with that is that I had to charge you and you $5 additional on everything that you record in the clerk of court's office to fund the Lecrae portal. So, in short, Lincoln Parish is financially stable in their clerk of court's office. We have been online before 2001, and we're going strong and updating and making sure that it's secure and up to date.
Okay, thank you. Next question, back to our assessor candidates, and we will begin this time with Mr. Pullen. How do assessors arrive at fair market value?
Well, like we talked about before, generally it's done on a cost comparison basis. There are 3 separate ways to assess the value of properties, but usually the most generally accepted and widely used for your basic homeowner business type properties are cost comparison. And that way you have a way to look at the other properties that are out there, what they're going for, and come up with something that's fair and applicable across the board for the rest of the properties that are in the area. And that's one of the things that we need to make sure we focus on as we talk about this. We need to be using apples to apples comparisons. You have to pick properties that are significantly closer than some of the ones we have had challenges on in the past. 2 years ago, the folks that live on Arcadia Drive had a situation where their properties, 60-year-old homes, were being compared in value to the brand new folks over in the Grove who were living in $140 and $150 square foot houses. And it elevated their taxes a little bit higher than what they liked or what they wanted. So we need to always try to keep in mind what's fairest for everybody.
Mr. McBride, same question.
Well, I tend to disagree. We use the sales approach because that's the most accurate cost, you got the sales approach, you got the cost approach, you have the income approach. We use income approach when, like rent houses and stuff, if they won't give us information, we can use the income approach, or apartment complexes. But most time we use sales approach. I don't want to get into the Arcadia Drive thing, but I think I will. I believe, and I don't know off the top of my head, but sales in these older neighborhoods, a lot of times it's cheaper for people to buy houses already built than to build a $250,000 house. I'm just using that for an example. But what we do, we take a neighborhood, and this neighborhood of Arcadia Drive did not go into the grove. That gentleman was mistaken. And we take the sales income, or sales price for 4 years, and we put it into our computer system, and it generates the value. But that's how we do sales approach.
All right. Next question is for all 4 of our candidates because it is applicable to both offices. And we'll start with Ms. Cook. And here is the question, Ms. Cook. Provide an example of when your ethics were tested.
Well, by law, we are to be tested every year. And so that would be the answer to my question. Your question is, we are tested every year. We have to go on to the Secretary of State's online program, and that's where we go through our ethics program, unless we go to our institutes, our clerk institutes, and then we are tested there.
Mr. Hughes, provide an example of when your ethics were tested.
I have to concur with Ms. Cook on this one. As a police officer, every year we have to have our ethics training every year. So we're tested through the state, and it's filed to the state.
Okay. And for our assessor candidates, Mr. Pullen, same question.
Well, one of the good things about being a public servant is not only do you get your ethics tested every year by the State Board of Ethics, but now they're also testing your sexual harassment. So, I can't really think of a situation where my ethics as a police juror have been challenged. My biggest thing has always been trying to figure out to do what's right for you, the people. We have to work to make decisions that are as fair for everybody, not just 1 or 2 folks, not just the folks that live in our districts, but for everybody in the parish. And one of the things I really concentrated on in the time I spent in the police jury is trying to do what's right for the parish as a whole, and not just the folks that live in my district. It's important to me because I live here. This is my home. I have poured out 35 years of my life into Lincoln Parish. And my desire is to leave Lincoln Parish a little bit better than when I found it. It's important to me that I set a good example and a good standard for my kids and for my wife and for the folks that live in my community. It's important to me that I represent you the best way possible. So I'm proud of my ethics, and I would stand behind them 100%.
And Mr. McBride.
I've taken the ethics class ever since 2009. All mine's up to date. And like you said, we also now have to take sexual harassment courses. Short answer.
Next question is also for our assessor candidates. It may not be quite as short of an answer. No. And Mr. McBride, you'll be up first on this one. The April 2019 F3 tornado impacted a significant portion of our community, both residential and commercial. In what way did the assessor's office serve those impacted?
Well, I think it's April 25th, we had that tornado come through. Unfortunately, we live out of town a little ways and we slept through it. But my daughter, my sister called me and told me about it, so I jumped up to check on my daughter that lives in town. Oh, Lord. We had a residential loss of $7,325,000 in fair market value on residential. In commercial, we had a loss of $6,228,000. That's a total of almost $14 million that we lost that day. What I've done for the parish, we had 2 or 3 reports, and Sheila and I looked at them, and some of the houses were left off. Actually, a house where the road where the two people got killed, their house wasn't on there. So I took it upon myself, and with the help of my staff, we hit the ground running, and for 3 weeks, we went around and reassessed everything. So that's just part of my job.
And Mr. Pullen, your answer to the same question.
And you read that answer just like the question. That's pretty good. One of the things with the assessor's office and the natural disaster, the tax commission has rules in place to provide relief for communities that undergo natural disasters. So most of the reassessments and the values fall under those guidelines. I did see Sheila and Billy both out in the aftermath of the tornado helping folks. And that's one of the things I'm really most impressed about our community is how everybody got out and did what they could do to help people. We are blessed to live in a place where so many people care about one another. We have good elected officials. We have an excellent sheriff and police department, folks who are committed to our citizens. And in the aftermath of that tornado, you saw what Ruston was really about. One of the things with being on the police jury in the aftermath of the tornado, I was available at all times as we dealt with the trash and the garbage that came from the storm damage and the storm debris. Mr. Hall was here, and together with our highway department, I don't want to leave anybody out, Jared, we did a fantastic job of cleaning up the road debris. And we're still working on some of the limbs and stuff that are out at the landfill. It's been a massive effort.
All right, next question to our clerk of court candidates, and Mr. Hughes, you will be first up, please, sir. Part of the role of the clerk of court is to maintain and preserve all of the official records of the parish, including marriage licenses, civil and criminal court records, land transactions, and other miscellaneous documents. What will you do to make sure that the documents that are legally available to the public are easy to access?
That goes back to what me and Ms. Cook talked about in the clerk's portal. Those programs are available online, and they are through a secure portal, so you'll be able to purchase those items and view them. So through those portals that are secured and be very accessible to you at home or in your office at any time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a week.
I'm Ms. Cook.
Okay, our records are online at the present time on the internet, and you can also come into your office and use the stations that are set up for anybody that wants to run records. The Lecrae portal will only have conveyance and mortgage. There will not be any images. There will not be any civil records. It's only conveyance and mortgage. So I will continue to update and secure all the information that is available on those documents that are recorded by the people of Lincoln Parish. I will make sure that those records are maintained. The original documents are kept in a secure climate control area, thanks to our police jurors. Our records are very safe and very secure and are available online and in-house to make it easy for anyone to access that would like to. Thank you.
All right. Next question to the assessor candidates. Mr. McBride, you would answer first, please, sir. And here's the question. How much growth has Lincoln Parish seen over the past 10 years?
When I started in '09, right after the recession, they said, well, last year we had 200 permits. It's down to 100 now. The past 2 years, I've had 500. This year already, I have 800 permits. And I've been able to measure each and every one of those. Some of them aren't new construction, some of them are remodels, some of them are demos. But a lot of them are new construction. We are on the grow. We, I forget how many millions of dollars. It's like it has grew almost $12 million in the past 10 years, our growth of our parish. I may be wrong, I can't recall it off the top of my head, but we have Louisiana Tech, Grambling, and y'all, if y'all can just look around, you can see all the apartment buildings and new houses, new subdivisions. So it is just remarkable how much growth that we've had.
And Mr. Pullen, from your perspective, how much growth has the parish seen?
I can't give you the exact economic data, but I will tell you, if you look at the surrounding 5 parishes, for the exception of Washington, Lincoln Parish is the only one that's had an increase in population and an increase in economy. Every other parish around us has had a decrease in both population and economy. What's fueling that growth? Well, I can tell you what's fueling the growth is Louisiana Tech. Enrollment at Louisiana Tech is up over 25%. I can tell you the other thing that's fueling that growth. It's the growth in the student population at Grambling. The Grambling student population is up almost 40% since Dr. Gallo got in as president. What we have to realize and what we have to maintain, we are at a point in time in our history where we are either growing economically or we are dying. We are either growing in population or we are dying. Ruston, Lincoln Parish, Grambling, Shudra, all the cities around here, we have to be committed to growing our parish. That's the only way that we're going to be able to continue to fuel this. We have seen a tremendous economic boom in the housing market. But what's coming is the oil market just took a hit. And you can look for some of the sales tax numbers and those figures to start to dwindle. So we need to be cautious and careful as we move forward.
All right, thank you. The next question is for all 4 of our candidates, and we will start with Ms. Cook. The writer of this question believes that it is important to support local business, and so the writer of the question asks this. As a candidate, have you shopped local for signs, cards, and other items in your campaign?
Yes, and I have used some local, and the prices are, some are more, some are lower, and it's just wide open out there, so who you go to pick is the problem. But yes, it is something that I like to continue to do, is keep it in town and be able to supply to help our parish.
And Mr. Hughes, how about your local shopping?
I've honestly used both. I've had some signs made in Alabama for local supplies like lumber, paper products, just general supplies. I've always shopped local.
Mr. Pullen?
I've spent in excess of over $5,000, and almost all of it has been local. I did buy some magnets from cheapmagnets.com. I highly recommend Cheap Magnets if you ever want some car magnets for your car. I got 10 magnets. I got some left over if anybody wants to put one. But I didn't pay but about $40 for all 10 of them. I believe, and it's one of the things I've seen as a police juror, the importance, the overwhelming critical importance of shopping local tax dollars. Now, my wife and I have had several arguments about what the Amazon man was doing at my house. But it's important that we as a community keep as much of our tax dollars here locally as possible. And I just hate it when folks want to save $10 in taxes to buy something from Amazon when the $10 in taxes would do a world of good right here in Ruston. And I want to encourage everybody to do all your shopping here in Ruston if you can. I was in Grambling today talking to the students at Grambling. And I said, if you want Grambling to be economically viable, if you want Grambling to thrive, when you go buy groceries, you need to go down here to the Legends Market and spend your money here in town and keep it local.
All right, excuse me. Thank you. Excuse me. All right, next question is for our assessor candidates.
You need to know if I buy local.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do. Tell us about your local shopping.
I buy local as much as I can. All right, next question.
You're right. I forgot all about him. Pardon me. Well, here's something else I need to know, or we need to know from you first, Mr. McBride. It's a good one, y'all. What is being done about the Monster Moto building? And are taxes owed?
It's not my department. We're not the tax collector. And I believe that building's owned by an individual right now. So like I said, that's not part of the assessor's job to answer that. And I'm not the assessor yet, but I'm chief deputy.
Right.
All right.
To the best of my knowledge, the mayor, the city of Ruston, and our local economic development team are out searching for candidates to come here and rent the building out. I know that they have had 4 potential companies come through and look at the building and try to decide if it was right for their purposes. I know they've had 2 that have been very, very, very interested. In fact, my friend the mayor said, I can't tell you, but I think we got this one. So, they're hopeful. As far as do they owe tax money on the building, everybody owes tax monies on their building. That property is owned by, it's a private company that's controlled by a family here locally in town, and they have to pay the property taxes. I don't know if they worked out a deal with the city pays the property taxes or they pay the property taxes, exactly what the situation is on who's picking up the taxes. But it was part of the lease agreement the city had with the folks for building the building. The local company built the building to meet the purposes of the folks from Monster Moto with the agreement that the city would pick up any rent that was due if Monster Moto pulled out before the end of the contract. Of course, we all know that's what happened. But as far as I know, they're still looking for a tenant.
All right, next question for our clerk of court candidates, and Mr. Hughes, we will begin with you. Why do you want to be clerk of court?
The main reason I want to be a clerk of court, I just want to offer my services. Ms. Cook has been an excellent clerk over her tenure. There's no doubt about it. I just want to bring a younger perspective to it. And I'm a believer in term limits, believe it or not. So that's my main point.
And Ms. Cook?
I want to be clerk of court to continue to be able to provide a wonderful clerk of court's office with the help of my deputy clerks. I could not do it without their help. And there's a lot of stuff out there, but main thing I want to do is to continue, because I have grown great respect for our clerk of court's office and the people that have important documents that are in our office. I want to make sure that someone that steps back into that office knows how to apply and what to do with all the very important documents that are there.
All right, thank you. Next question, back to our candidates for assessor, and Mr. Pullen, you'll be first up on this one. Local government bodies rely heavily on property tax revenue for support. Taxes approved by voters should be collected fairly and uniformly according to law. How will you ensure politics and favoritism do not affect the assessment of property taxes?
The assessment of and again, as Billy said earlier, we don't assess the taxes. We put the value on the property. The property is what determines how much the taxes are. And the best way to fairly do that is to openly and honestly have everything out there where everybody can see. You can look at the comp comparisons for what all the properties are you're using, and that way you can have a fair and honest evaluation. Now, there are instances where a local governing body may want to try to do some economic development. And the assessor's office and the other governing bodies in the parish may need to work with them in an effort to try to help them attract businesses and economic development to our area. But we have to be open and willing to work with the different governing bodies that come into parish. You can't have a one-size-fits-all, but you do have to be open and transparent for everybody.
Repeat the question.
Local government bodies rely heavily on property tax revenue for support. Taxes approved by voters should be collected fairly and uniformly according to law. How will you ensure politics and favoritism do not affect the assessment of property taxes?
What you do, you just say no. When somebody comes in, they need a favor, I need this building lowered, I need this done, you just tell them no. Because we are upheld by the Constitution, the legislature, and the tax commission to obey all the rules and regulations. And if I don't do that, then I'm failing the people of Lincoln Parish. Because I work for y'all. And if I lower someone else, if we were able to lower someone's assessment, somebody else has to make that up, because you have a budget all the way across the board that has to be made. So I would just say no to the good old boy club.
Next question is also for our assessor candidates, and Mr. McBride, you would be first up on this one. What is the $3 million fund about that one candidate wants to give back $1 million of? Why hadn't it been returned already?
Well, I believe you can't really take a budget and just cherry pick out of 50-something pages what you want to read. The same thing as picking out the scriptures out of the Bible that fits your propaganda. It shows in the first page of the budget that we have 3.5 million, I believe. But after you take all the deductions out, we have a little over 1 million. I contacted the attorney in Baton Rouge over our Assessor Association, and he said it's illegal to give back that money. Now, I don't know if they're talking about lowering the millages. We have lowered the millages since 2008, I believe. They were 2.22. And this year they were 1.99. The assessor just lowered it to 1.75. If you figure the growth in and how much the assessments have been lowered, we have saved the taxpayers altogether over $2 million in the past 10 years.
And Mr. Pullen, same question.
It's pretty simple. If you have an office that's annual budget is $3 million or is $1 million, and you have surplus funds of $3 million. Now, what Mr. McBride would have you believe is that you can't count the $2 million that they have set aside for retirement benefits, which would lower it to $1 million. But that's not true. When the state changed the auditing format, I want to say it was 2012 or 2013, they required every governmental body to include retirement liabilities or retirement expenses as a liability. Annually, the office is only spending about $170,000 a year to meet their retirement costs, not the money they're spending out of the employee fund for retirement. I'm talking about the others that are going to actual retirees. And you know, Mr. McBride said it's illegal to give you your money back. You know, give you your money back may not be the best way to say it. Like I said before, if you got $3 million, my plan is to reduce the millage that operates the office and let you enjoy that extra money that you're not paying to the assessor's office.
All right, next question is also to our assessor candidates. And Mr. Pullen, you'll be first up this time. And here it is. The Lincoln Parish Assessor's Office utilizes a quantitative computer system to assess business, personal property, and residential property. What experience do you have in this program?
I have absolutely no experience using the camera program that they're buying from the company out of Little Rock, Arkansas. It's also a widely used program by several other assessors here in North Louisiana. But the nice thing is, the very nice lady in Arkansas Camera said, we would be happy to provide you with any training you needed to operate our system. We can come to you, or you can come to us. I didn't get a chance to finish up on the $3 million. You know, one of the things about the $3 million that's important is it's your money. If you've got an office that operates on only $1 million a year, why do you really need to hold $3 million in the bank? And Mr. McBride brought up the fact that they reduced, this year we're reducing the millage to 1.75. Golly gee, I wonder why. You know, we've been talking for 6 months about how much they're overcharging you and how the office made $313,000 last year. And lo and behold, this year they've decided to lower the operating millage for the office so it doesn't produce that kind of money. It's important for you folks to know that there's a lot of money up there, and it's your money. You have a right to know how it's being spent, number one, and you have a right to be able to look at the accountability book from the audit report every year so you can see how it was used the previous year.
Okay, Mr. McBride, back to the question on the computer system and your experience with that system, with that program.
Oh, yeah. It's a great system. I came at the perfect time in 2009. I got hired. I think y'all had implemented it around 2006, 2008. And it just makes everything so much easier. It is a wealth of information stored in the camera system. You can run ratio studies. You can run market adjustments. Just whatever you can think of, you can run on that. Because appraising property is more than just going out and measuring and setting a value on it. You have to analyze it. You have to look at sales. You have to depreciate property. And it is very, I don't know the word, it is a very tedious process to appraise. And I'm glad I came when I did, because I sure would hate to do it on the old paper way. Thank you.
All right, and the last question of the evening will go to all four of our candidates because it too is applicable to both of the offices. And we'll start back with Mr. Hughes, who's the candidate for clerk of court. And the question is, how will you improve the clerk's office?
One way to improve the clerk's office is continue what Ms. Cook's already stated about our online access. Also, I'd like to bring out a bilingual employee because the Spanish population continues to grow, so we need to serve the type of people. And I've got quite a few great ideas from people just been in contact the last few months. One guy I was talking about maybe having somebody trained to sign for deaf people. I thought about maybe trying to incorporate somebody from the blind school, that way we can service the blind people. And that's ways I'd like to improve the clerk's office.
And Ms. Cook, how would you improve the clerk's office?
Again, I would just have to say that technology is an ongoing issue that you have to stay on top of daily, monthly, yearly. I would make sure, again, that that is very secure, protecting everybody's document information from social security numbers to date of birth. That's a very important issue. In the clerk of court's office, we're kind of like a governmental entity. We don't have a very large turnover. And I've never been one to try to develop a job for a position. But anyone can come into the clerk of court's office anytime and give a resume to the clerk of court. I will hold it 6 months to a year and ask for any updates during that time to be given to me. Thank you.
And Mr. McBride, how would you improve the assessor's office?
One thing I'd like to do, I would like to implement more training for the community where they would know how their assessments are made. I've had the opportunity the past 6 months to talk to several different groups. And I'm really not talking about why they should vote for me. I'm trying to educate them about the programs we have. Louisiana has over 65 freeze, which is great for the seniors. They can lock their assessment in. You have 100% disability exemption for disabled veterans, and several more exemptions, homestead exemption, and ag use. But what I would do, I would improve on our technology a little bit better. We have some of the greatest websites available. I get a lot of compliments from down South Louisiana. We're another one of the first ones in North Louisiana, or in Louisiana, to implement the CAMO website.
Okay, we've tried to hold each one of these to, whoa, sorry. It's a good thing this is the 5th of 5, I tell you.
Are you that ready to get out of here now?
No, sorry.
How would I improve the assessor's office? You know, one of the biggest things, Mr. McBride and I have been campaigning for this job for 6 months now, but he's been running for it for about a year now. This is the first time I've heard him say anything that he would do different. I'm excited to have the opportunity to try to bring some change to the office. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to give you your $1 million back. Now, it's going to be in the form of you paying a little less on your property taxes over the next couple of years as we reduce the millage for the office. I'm glad Mrs. Bordelon has taken the first step by cutting it 12% this year. And I look forward to being able to do that or better again next year and the year after. But I made a commitment at the Rusted Voters League the other night to make sure that we have an assessor's office that reflects our community and is reflective of our community. I'm committed to making sure that we provide as much training to all the staff members in the office as possible. I don't plan on making any staff changes. You got a job after I win. We're going to keep going, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everybody in the office is as well trained, because that's what you, the taxpayers, deserve. And we're going to do things to improve the service, because customer service at the assessor's office really needs to pick up.
I know you said that was your last question, but can I ask?
Sure.
As someone who advocates for education, recently I was having a conversation
Well, I'm gonna answer first.
So I don't forget you this time.
Yes, I don't want you to forget.
No, please.
I have over 250 hours of IAAO training. That is one college semester. It's a 30-hour course. We take it in 4 days, and we test on the last day. I've been certified Louisiana Deputy Assessor. I've been recertified. So I took almost 12 or more courses. And I'm all about education. I'm currently pursuing my personal property designation with IAAO, and the sky's the limit. We're going to send our people to classes. We have 10. Mark should be certified by the end of the year, or starting next year in March or April. Yeah. So we're going to continue any kind of training we can get, ACT training. Thank you.
I definitely believe in continuing education. One of the things to become, as he says, a certified assessor, which would be important for me to do for you, I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best representation in the office as I can. Next year, what a lot of people don't realize, we are having an election in 2 weeks, but the next assessor is not going to be sworn in until January of 2021. That gives me 14 months where I'm going to be pursuing the International Association of Assessors certification. I'll have an opportunity with online classes or with going and hanging out at Monte Leon like he got to do, and in Baton Rouge, and taking classes here in the state. I should have a possibility to get 2, possibly 3 of the 4 classes required to become a certified assessor done within the year. I definitely plan on having all 4 courses finished by the end of my first year in office. So I want to make that same thing available to everybody who works in the assessor's office. And one of the things, since online training is available through the International Association, we'll probably work out a way for folks to take the online courses while they're at work. We'll have to do it in shifts. Not everybody's going to be able to stop what they're doing and take the courses. But we'll break it up where people who are working in the office can actually use some of their work time to take the course.
Continuing education is an utmost importance, especially with the clerks of court. We have a clerks of court association that is entwined with our institutes, and it's strictly about what clerks of court can do to perform better duties, updates yearly. And it's also wonderful to be able to share different ideas with other clerks all over the state. We have 2 certified institutes a year. That's usually in February and in August. And yes, ma'am, I will continue the education for the deputy clerks. Most of my deputies are already certified, but there are a few younger deputies that are not. So we will get those certified as quickly as possible. But everybody will be included in the education. Thank you. That's a good question.
Again, I agree with Ms. Cook. Currently, I'm a police officer. We have legal updates as mandatory every year. I'm sure the clerk's office has the same thing, because every year laws change or updated, new laws go into effect. So you have to have continuing education in these type of fields to perform the duties that you need to.
Okay, now, just a couple more announcements. Excuse me. First, let us, we do indeed appreciate all of you all participating tonight and offering yourselves for public service here in Lincoln Parish. So let's give them all a round of applause for their willingness to do that for the parish. Just a couple of reminders: early voting does begin Saturday in the Registrar of Voters office at the courthouse, and then goes to October 5, with the exception of Sunday. No voting on Sunday. And the foyer out here are copies of a special section that we printed. Well, it'll be in Friday's. That's right, Friday's Leader. But there's some. You can get some advanced copies out there in the foyer. Our sample ballot section has all the sample ballots for all of the precincts. There's maps, information that we hope that you can use as you continue to make your candidate decisions. And on Sunday will be the leaders' election guide, where tonight you ask the questions. In that guide, we ask the questions, so there will be some different questions for you, hopefully, to read and mull over those answers, not just with these ladies and gentlemen here, but with all of the police jurors, with the folks who are running for state senate from this district, the Bessie board members, and our candidates for constable in Ward 2. That having been said, we do indeed appreciate all of you all. Some of you have been here with us through all 5 of these, and we really appreciate you. You're going to get a gold star, or maybe 2 cookies to take home tonight, I don't know. But thank you very much for participating, for coming, for listening to these folks, for giving your time to them as much as they have given their time to you, to us, the citizens of Lincoln Parish, and safe journey home.